Welcome back to Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who's ever had anything happen to them ever. I'm your host, I'm Kinga. You know that, hopefully. I missed you. I haven't seen you in a while, not since my last crying episode back at the end of December. That was quite the episode. But as you know, a lot has to happen for me to decide to record an episode because, in the truest nature of recovering from everything, I have to go through some stuff, then come out the other side of stuff, then gain some perspective on the stuff, then do some research on the stuff, and only then, can I deliver it to you, my sweet listeners and viewers. So that is exactly what's about to happen today. So enough about me, and away we go. So I was just in Florida for 4 or 5 days visiting my best friend. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic, nothing I needed to recover from. Just rest and sun and laughter and movement and, great food. Enjoyment, just pure enjoyment. And I was surprised by how much guilt I felt the entire time. Not anxiety, not panic, more like this quiet, low grade feeling of, am I allowed to be doing this? And what's important here is this: I already take good care of myself. I eat well, I work out, I take care of my mental health, I take my supplements. My God, the supplements. I do the things that we're supposed to do, that I'm supposed to do, that make me feel good and take good care of me. But this trip to Florida felt different. This wasn't maintenance, this was enjoyment. I flew first class. I took a break in the middle of the month for no reason, going because I wanted to, not because I earned it or I needed to escape something. And that is where the guilt crept in. What kept coming up was this subtle sense of unworthiness. Not loud, not dramatic, um, just like hide parts of this. This is too much. And that feeling is familiar because it feels a lot like shame. And when you've spent years drinking quietly or emotionally hiding, you get used to minimizing yourself, compartmentalizing joy, not being seen too much, enjoying things privately, if at all. Shame teaches the nervous system something very specific. Visibility, being seen, is dangerous. Pleasure needs to be justified. Ease should be earned or hidden, because what would people think? That I'm out there enjoying my life. What if they deem me unworthy? What if they think I don't deserve it? Right? But it's like those are my own projections onto other people's thoughts about me. Nobody's thinking about me. Anyways, so what I kind of pieced together was that, like, even when the drinking changes and even when my life upgraded, I mean, multiple times in the last 13 and a half years, that thought pattern can still find a way to exist. So once I kind of wrapped my head around what was happening in my head, um, I started kind of poking around and getting some notes out, because I'm like, there is absolutely no way that, of all of the high functioning women that I work with or attract or are in my, social media bubble, there's no way that I am the only person that has felt this. And I know for a fact that when we're still really wrapped up in our relationship with alcohol, that is very, very apparent. It's very difficult for us to do nice things because we've grown so accustomed to, um, treating ourselves a very, very specific way. And coming out of that and really working hard to not treat yourself a specific way, in fact, replace treating yourself poorly with treating yourself very kindly and very lovingly and very compassionately, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you wouldn't think that any guilt or shame would come with that. It doesn't make any sense, but it does. And it's actually so common that there is a psychological term for it. Hallelujah. Y'all, we are textbook cases, and that is comforting to me. So when I learned this term, something clicked. It's called hedonic guilt. Okay. Hedonic comes from the word hedonism, right? So hedonic guilt is the discomfort or the shame that shows up when we experience pleasure, enjoyment, or ease, especially if those things haven't historically felt safe or deserved. Let me just repeat that last part for you one more time and let that really sink in. Hedonic guilt is the discomfort or shame that shows up when we experience pleasure, enjoyment, or ease, especially if those things haven't historically felt safe or deserved. There's no mention of, especially if you haven't earned those things. Especially if those things haven't historically felt safe or deserved. Is it safe for us to feel pleasure, enjoyment, and ease? I don't know about you, but in the past, and sometimes still, I could experience pleasure, enjoyment, or ease, but then something bad would happen. And it was either something bad that would happen to me or something bad would happen at my own hand. And so, no, pleasure, enjoyment, and ease consistently certainly hasn't felt safe historically. Deserved, I mean, the work that I have done on my worthiness. Sure, I have a history of having a relationship with unworthiness or feeling undeserving of like good things. Especially if those things haven't historically felt safe or deserved. So your brain doesn't hate joy, it just doesn't trust it yet. For me, I'm like 13 and a half years in, right? But that milestone is just 13 and a half years away from my last drink and my last drunk. But not necessarily 13 and a half years away from the last time I treated myself poorly. Damn, that was like a couple weeks ago, probably, right? Like, so aside from the alcohol and aside from my relationship with any type of substance or food or whatever, have a history of treating myself poorly in various ways. So, my brain likes joy. My brain wants joy. But when we have joy, my brain is like, did we earn this? Is this going to go away? Is this good for somebody else, but not for me? We just, we got some trust issues with our sweet Kinga, and like, that's okay. So research in affective psychology shows that people who've lived in prolonged stress, responsibility, or emotional suppression often associate pleasure with danger or loss of control. Check, check, check. So when something feels really good, the nervous system doesn't relax, it scans for danger. So these ideas connect to the work of Paul Gilbert, who found that people high in shame often struggle more with positive emotions than negative ones. I wish I could just show you the first like 5 minutes of our coaching calls. So I meet with these. We've got actually a total of 3 coaching calls a week. You can attend as many as you want. The first 5 minutes of every coaching call, I'm like, post your wins in the chat. the struggle. And I do this because it is a struggle, because it's a struggle for me and I know it's a struggle for them. And so we exercise this part of our brain that is like, what is a win? Focus for one hot second on something positive. Halfway through the call, I'm still calling out people. I'm like, oh, didn't get your win. Didn't get your win. It's a struggle. And we are women who, despite having perfect lives and despite really having everything together, our mismanagement of our relationship with alcohol has caused us such high levels of shame. And so, yeah, we are the ones that struggle more with our positive emotions, the emotions that are pleasant, the emotions that feel good. Those are scary and dangerous. Negative ones, easy peasy, easy peasy. Been managing that for years, right? So that part really matters. And for a lot of high functioning women, the hardest emotion to tolerate isn't sadness or anxiety, it's pleasure, because pleasure requires safety, and safety requires trust. We don't have a great history of trusting how we treat ourselves. We don't have a great history of feeling safe with ourselves. And so if we're experiencing pleasure, that is the scariest experience ever. There's also research around success guilt and over responsibility, especially in women who become emotionally adult very early. When you surpass the emotional or financial circumstances you came from, enjoyment can feel like a betrayal of your family, of your identity, your programmed identity, of the version of you that had to struggle, that's grown accustomed to struggle, that thinks that there's something noble in the struggle. That internal voice isn't saying, you don't deserve this. It's saying, if you relax too much, something bad might happen. Great. That's conditioning, not intuition. That's your programming. That's not real anymore. If alcohol used to be how you relaxed, how you celebrated, how you accessed pleasure, then kind of this idea of like clean pleasure can feel really unfamiliar. And unfamiliar doesn't feel safe to the nervous system. Um, Trauma research, like the work of Bessel van der Kolk, shows us that the body often stays organized around survival long after the danger is gone, long after. So even when your life has upgraded, your nervous system might still be running on old software. Um, so that's not a failure, that's just biology, like that's physiology. So here's the reframe I'm working with right now and that I'm offering to you. Hedonic guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It usually means you're doing something new, something outside the emotional range you were trained to tolerate. The work isn't to force the guilt away. The work is to stay present while doing the thing anyway. Do it guilty. To let your nervous system learn pleasure doesn't equal eventual punishment. Ease doesn't mean collapse. Enjoyment doesn't make you irresponsible. This is exposure therapy, but for joy. And honestly, if enjoying your life feels uncomfortable, that might be the clearest sign that you're no longer living from self abandonment. You didn't lose your edge. You didn't forget where you came from. You just stopped like bleeding for your self worth. And that's what I learned on my trip to Florida. Well, shortly after my trip to Florida. But what an interesting experience to truly just be living in 4 days of real ease and joy and pleasure and you know, I mean, I did focus on some business stuff here and there, and that was a little bit tumultuous, but and even that was like helpful for me to be like, oh, okay, I worked a couple of hours today or however long, like now I earned it. But to really sit there and be like, I feel guilty and I feel ashamed for going coming to Florida to spend some time with my best friend in the sun, right? Leaving the dead of winter in Canada, leaving my daughter at her dad's, um, to refocus because my instinct was, oh, well, I had a hard January and like I really needed this. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. And I also didn't really need this. And there was nothing that I needed to recover from. And there was nothing that I like needed a break from. I mean, I suppose the winter I needed a break from. Um, that was like nice. Um, but to kind of reframe and sort of rearrange my own thoughts about experiencing joy and pleasure and ease without necessarily having to have like, like I said, like bled for it or like clawed out of like the ditches to like get to Fort Lauderdale airport. Like, no, my best friend lives in Florida and I wanted to see her. And like the life I built allows me to do that. Like, I made this life, I made this possible for myself. So, like, to reframe my own thoughts to allow myself and allow my nervous system to be like, no, this is how I'm meant to be treating myself. Hope that's helpful. Thanks for listening to another episode of Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who has ever had anything happen to them ever, including building a great life for yourself and then not letting yourself enjoy it. What? And as always, the link to work with me is in the show notes. Start with the masterclass. I am in the middle of redoing it, so you might get the old one if you want the new one. Come back in a couple weeks when I eventually finish recording it. It will explain everything you need to know to see if it's a good fit to work together. If you are a super high functioning woman between the ages of 45-ish and 63-ish, and you feel like you've maybe tried everything out there and you keep failing and failing and failing because you keep accessing resources that were not built for a woman like you, and you're ready for something new and you're ready for a very small, strong army of women to be your biggest cheerleaders and to guide you through this process. Start with the masterclass. You can book a call with me. A link will pop up at the end of the masterclass, and you can fill out the application. And hopefully it's good and it's thorough, and me and Sherry approve your call, and we can chat about possibly having you join us, so that you too can experience consistent joy, pleasure, and ease in your life before our brains convince us otherwise. So we do read these applications very carefully before granting a meeting with me to talk about your next steps. So make sure that you're thorough. And if it seems like it might be a good match, we'll let you know. And if it seems like it might not be a good match, we'll also let you know too. So I hope to see you soon, and I love you. See you later.